Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Climate and Infrastructure Committee for May 22nd, 2025. I'm Katie Cashman, and I'm the chair of this committee. And before we take up our meeting schedule today, we are going to give an honorary resolution in honor of 2025 Public Works Week. So I join any other council members to join me up here to join in reading this resolution. Come on up. Don't be shy. Any spot. Alan, Joe, feel free to crowd in. All right. Well, let's begin here. So this resolution is declaring the week of May 18th as National Public Works Week. Whereas the American Public Works Association will celebrate the 65th Annual National Public Works Week, which will be held the third week in May with the theme People, Purpose, Presence. And whereas National Public Works Week is a celebration of the public works employees who make our community better by connecting, collaborating, and responding to provide the services we as a city depend on. And whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure and services that are of vital importance to a sustainable and resilient city, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on the services they provide, such as clean, safe drinking water and solid waste and recycling collection to help Minneapolis remain a clean and livable city. And whereas they manage the water and sanitary sewer network to protect and improve the water quality of our rivers, lakes, and creeks. And whereas public works employees design, build, and maintain the thousands of miles of streets, alleys, bridges, bikeways, sidewalks, streetlights, signals, pavement marking, and signage to safely keep the city moving. And whereas public works employees keep the city's plows, garbage trucks, street sweepers, fire trucks, and so many more running, even on the coldest days and nights of winter. And whereas everyday public works employees take pride in making Minneapolis better and more equitable for all. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Council acknowledges the significant daily contribution that the employees within the Public Works Department of the City of Minneapolis provide to the citizens and businesses throughout the city during National Public Works Week. Yay. Thank you. All right, so here's Director Sexton.
Thank you. Tim Sexton, Public Works Director. And I just want to give a special recognition today to 5 years ago, following the murder of George Floyd, the Public Works created the Public Works Equity Team. This is a group of individuals that really sort of provide a lot of guidance to the whole department, all 1,200 people. They represent all 9 divisions to say what are those policies, programs, projects that we should be looking at to make sure that we're focused on professional development, that we're addressing internal and external equity concerns. And they've made a lot of really meaningful impacts on the department that I think also have influenced the city as a whole. So we have active Public Works Equity Team members and alums, many of which are with the city but no longer with Public Works anymore. So I just want to give special recognition and thank you all for your contributions. They're really meaningful, and we really value all the energy, time, expertise that you've given us. So just a big thank you, in addition to thanking everyone else for the tremendous work they do to keep the city moving and thriving. So thank you all.
Right. Brian Dodds, would you like to say any? Any few words?
Sure, I'll say a few words. I'll just say Public Works, amazing. The city would not move or function without y'all. So great job, thank you, and happy Public Works Week.
Well said. Anyone else want to make some comments? I'll just say, as the chair of this committee, it is an absolute joy working with so many of you. Thanks for being so responsive and for always finding new ways to make sure we are resolving constituent concerns in the fastest possible timeline, whether it's with, sign request forms or the traffic calming process, and doing so much community engagement on street reconstructions and all of the projects that you do is just really appreciated. So it's a joy working with all of you, and I appreciate you coming to the chambers today too. Great. So before we call this meeting officially to order, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all the members, staff, and public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning to increase the accessibility of our proceedings. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that the captioners can fully transcribe all comments. Thank you. And at this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify we have a quorum.
Councilmember Vita.
Present.
Osman.
Present.
Chavez.
Present.
Chowdhury.
Present.
Vice Chair Koski.
Present.
Chair Cashman.
Present.
There are 6 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. So we will start with the consent agenda, items 3 through 22. Item 3 is amending the Minneapolis street lighting plan map to reclassify 9 segments as pedestrian street lighting corridors. Item 4 is authorizing the submittal of grant applications for the 2025 Minnesota Department of Transportation Metro Local Partnership Program. Item 5 is authorizing a pipeline license agreement with BNSF for permission to install a sewer pipeline beneath their railroad tracks. Items 6 through 9 are approving large block events for the Edina Art Fair from June 6th through 8th. Noons on Nicollet Mall on June 18th, July 16th, and August 13th. Taste of Minnesota on July 5th through 6th.
And Welcome Downtown Core Week on May 19th through 23rd, July 28th through August 1st, September 8th through 12th, and November 17th through 21st. Item 10, receiving and filing the Quarter 1 Traffic Zones Restrictions and Controls Report. Item 11 is updating the Parking and Mobility Services fee and rate schedule for the impound lot. Item 12 is approving appointments to the Uptown Special Service District Advisory Board. Item 12 is approving appointments to the Bicycle Advisory Committee. Item 14, receiving and filing a letter of appointment for Maxwell Singer to the Bicycle Advisory Committee. Item 15, approving appointments to the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. 16, receiving and filing a letter of appointment for Mary McKelvey to the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. 17, authorizing the biennial routine maintenance agreement between MnDOT and the city. Item 18 is designating the 10th Avenue Bridge as the Minnesota Senate Majority Leader Carrie Dietzick Memorial Bridge. Item 19 is authorizing a lease amendment with MnDOT for commercial land under I-394 Bridge at Linden Avenue. Item 20 is approving a large block event permit for Warehouse District Live. Item 21 is approving an amplified sound permit for Warehouse District Live. Item 22 is directing staff to produce an analysis of state, county, and municipal authority in Minnesota over vehicle noise regulations. And finally, the last item on the consent agenda is passage of the honorary resolution we presented at the beginning of the meeting in honor of Public Works Week. I will move approval of the consent agenda and ask if there's any discussion from committee members or guests. First, I'll recognize Councilmember Vita.
Thank you, Chair Cashman. I'd like to pull item 1 for discussion, please.
Okay. Next, I'll recognize Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Cashman. I'm not pulling any items. I just wanted to briefly speak to item number 18, which is the Carrie Dietzick Memorial Bridge resolution. Just wanted to put it out there that on June 5th at our council meeting, we'll be finalizing that resolution to name the 10th Avenue Bridge after Carrie Dietzick, our late senator in Senate District 60 and also former majority leader. She, like many others, would say she had a deep impact on me personally, which I'll speak to there, but I did want to invite anyone in the public or here that had a connection with our late senator to join us on June 5th. And I thank Council President Payne, Councilmember Rainville, Councilmember Koski for co-authoring this. And I thank our senators at the state capitol for also passing a resolution, and the city and the state just kind of coming together to honor her in a really meaningful way, because after all, she was a tremendous bridge builder.
Very well said. Next, I'll recognize Councilmember Osman.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to talk about item 13 and 15 and really give a shout out to Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. These are citizens from the community who give their time to advise us the best way of having safe pedestrian and bicycle. So all those appointments, thank you for serving. And yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Councilmember Osman. I'll just echo that and thank Cliff Mountjoy, Julia Curran, and Eric Smith, who are the Ward 7 appointees to those committees, and thank them for their service and their collaboration on these efforts. And then also I just wanted to quickly celebrate all of the large block event permits that we are approving today. And I know there were several in the last council cycle as well, but there's going to be a lot of great activity on Nicollet Mall, as well as at the Edina Art Fair and Warehouse District Live on First Avenue. So it's just a really great way to activate our public spaces and bring community to our fabulous city. So I will move approval of the agenda except item number 3, which was the first item on our consent agenda that Councilmember Vita pulled. So with the motion to approve the consent agenda except that item, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? That motion carries. We will now go ahead and take up the item number 3, amending the street lighting plan map to reclassify 9 segments as pedestrian street lighting corridors. And I will go ahead and recognize Director Sexton if you'd like to give any background on this, or Councilmember Vita, you are also recognized to ask questions.
Thank you, Chair Cashman. Yeah, I just had a couple questions. You know, I remember this item coming up in budget and just kind of having some discussions about where funding streams are going to come from. And I think maybe I was confused about some of this with having this list of items before us today. Director Sexton, I guess my question is, given what we know about the copper wire theft and some other projects going on in the city, how does this leave, the rest of the city with these projects? What feels like to me being put at the top of the list, kind of bypassing a list of items that I may have had in my ward and others. I haven't spoke to anyone else, so I don't know if others have had projects in their ward that has been on a list for quite some time, and now we have these projects before us, and we had incidents in some of our wards where copper wire was being stolen at large amounts of, large numbers of light poles are, not in operation because of the copper wire theft. So just wondering how this affects those projects and what is the source of this money?
Director Sexton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Councilmember Vita. So the funding right now, there was a budget amendment to provide some $500,000 of funding to support pedestrian scale lighting for the Dinkytown and Marcy Holmes neighborhoods. That was directed to come from our Traffic and Parking Services Division. Where exactly it came from, we made an operational decision to tie that most closely to the budget item that it was sort of most closely associated to, in which case it was streetlights and streetlight maintenance. So we did make that decision to take the $500,000 from that line item. So it will have some impact on streetlight repairs. It's hard to say exactly how much because that budget addresses things like RECs, if there's regular outages in addition to copper wire theft that causes streetlight outages. So, but that budget's approximately $2 million a year, and this $500,000 amendment does come from that budgeted amount.
Okay, so can we get I think this is what I asked for during budget. Can we just kind of get an overview of what that would look like how this $500,000 is going to directly impact this budget item? I mean, what you just said sounds scary to me. If something comes up, we're missing. This is a lot of money for this project that, again, I feel like has kind of jumped the line for other projects that are happening, or maybe even taken away from things that are unknown for us. So whatever information you can provide me with, I'm not prepared to support this. And so whatever information you can provide me with, I would be grateful for that for sure. I want to be able to go back to Ward 4 and let them know that we're not having things taken away from us, or we're not going to have these unforeseen things come up that we can't handle in Ward 4 because I voted for these projects. So I would love whatever additional information you can provide. I can have somebody reach out from my office to set up a meeting, but this just doesn't feel like enough information for me to move forward on this with these specific projects. And then the last thing is, when I last talked to the University of Minnesota staff, I thought they had fundraised for this project. I thought they had some collaboration with students and staff and some fundraising where they had the money for the lighting projects that they needed at the U.
Director.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Councilmember. We did have some initial conversations, or heard about some conversations earlier around self-assessments or some fundraising. I haven't gotten a recent update on the status of that. I think one piece, though, I would like to clarify for today's action. Today's action is to add these 2 neighborhoods to the map, and the policy related to pedestrian street lighting corridors it has a map that identifies the projects that are eligible for funding. It doesn't actually fund those projects. So today's action, it is confusing, but today's action just allows them to be on that map to be eligible for funding. The budget amendment has already happened that funds this project. So just want to make sure that that distinction is clear.
I definitely appreciate the distinction, but I feel like the nature of the amendment was specific to this project. The person who brought the amendment forward specifically talked about projects in their ward, and that is what I see here. So I completely understand what you're saying, Director, but I just feel like the nature of the amendment last year was specifically about these projects.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chair.
Director.
Thanks, Chair and Council Member. I just want to also confirm that we are happy to meet with you and discuss those impacts more specifically. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next, I'll recognize Councilmember Palmisano as a guest to this committee.
Thank you, Chair Cashman, for allowing me to join you today. This action, this item number 1 action, it simply makes these streets eligible. That's it for this action today. And I'm not here for a lengthy discussion, but to say that at Budget Committee, I am looking to make sure that we have enough money to fix poles and rewire copper throughout the city. I understand, Director Sexton, from your memo to us earlier this week that Public Works crews are out there working as fast as you can in the highest transportation equity areas. The problem for me is that that's not our whole city. Copper wire theft is seriously impacting several areas of our city, including our parkways and our park system that's used by everyone, not just those in the immediate neighborhood around it. I also really appreciate the bit of work that was done over the winter. It was a little bit, but we still have large swaths of areas around our lakes and our creek that are in total darkness. Your memo, Director, stated it's unlikely we can fully address all areas this year. And it's apparent to me that if you had the $500,000 that was diverted in December's budget process, you would be able to get further down your list. Is that accurate?
Director.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, Councilmember Palmisano, we have a very large funding gap, or not gap in terms of there's a lot of streetlights out, right? We have over 20 miles of streetlights that are out. And the $500,000 would help get us further along. It's hard to say exactly how much farther, but yes, we would be able to do more repairs with more funding.
Yeah. Chair Cashman, I'm not on this committee and I don't have a vote here today. I will have a vote at full council. I have no problem updating the map if it meets the criteria to be added, which it sounds like it maybe does. I'm not convinced yet. But I do have a problem with the trickle-down impacts this has on the rest of our city, delaying higher priority pedestrian scale lighting repairs and improvements, or slowing streetlight repair work for one particular neighborhood of our city is not okay. Thank you.
Thank you for joining and for making those comments. I think, Vice Chair Koski and I have just been talking, and we're in agreement that it's a good idea to make this budget whole. And so I think that there's some consensus, at least among several of us here, that we all want to make sure that the streetlight budget is whole and make sure that even park areas can get repaired as soon as possible. So we can follow up on that together as well. And next, I'll recognize Councilmember Osman.
Thank you. Someone who dealt with streetlights issue in a dark neighborhood. Let me just say that not every street in our city is the same. There are some neighbors that are totally dark, and yes, they have the right to jump the line. If that neighborhood is totally dark. I have used a similar process a couple of years ago where I was able to allocate Stevens Square and Loring Park because that was identified as one of the darkest neighborhoods in our city. So on that process, residents are happy and thankful that that work has been done. And I agree with Councilmember Cashman that, yes, we should definitely prioritize overall lighting issue in our city. But as I can see here, this is focusing on more on students area, and there are a lot of young people, and having lights over there, having opportunity for younger people to go to school and walk to their dorms. I think it's no brainer to jump the line. I'm okay actually jumping the line streets that are darker than normal. So just want to use that as Stevens Square Loading Park example a few years ago. Thank you.
Next, I'll recognize Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Cashman. Since we're discussing this item at greater length, I think it would be really helpful if there's a staff member kind of just to speak generally to what this item is and the areas in which it will impact and be included, just so the public and ourselves could get a better idea.
I'll ask Director Sexton.
Yeah, Chair and Council Member, I'd like to introduce Alan Klugman, our Traffic and Parking Services Division Director.
Great. And then I'll have some follow-up questions, Chair.
All right, welcome, Director Klugman.
Chair Cashman, Councilmember Chowdhury, again, my name's Alan Klugman. I'm the Director of the Traffic and Parking Services Division of Public Works. And maybe just a little clarification, if I may, on your question. I'm sorry for just maybe re-asking, but do you want to hear more about the specific areas being added to the map or more about our maintenance work? I wasn't quite sure there.
The areas that are being added to the map and then what this would mean for the maintenance work for those areas.
Okay, sure. In terms of the areas being added to the map, this is in the Dinkytown and Marcy Homes neighborhoods. And maybe just a quick explanation of why they're being added to the map, or why we're able to add them to the map now. The map was developed many years ago. We periodically go through updates to the map when there's changed conditions. Might be due to a new roadway project, might be due to new development, might be due to new pedestrian facilities or bike facilities and so forth. So I just want to point out that this one, because of the recent addition of high-density housing, we reanalyzed the neighborhoods, and that's why it now qualifies to be on the PSLC map. So that's kind of the technical aspect of why the map, we're recommending the map update. In terms of maintenance work, our electricians do maintenance work throughout the year, and we typically do in two, now three main categories. One category is what we call RECs. We have about 200 poles a year that cars run off the road and knock the poles over. We need to put them back up. The second major area in which we do work is outages, typically end of the life for the fixtures or the bulbs or what have you, or things go at fault and we have to repair those. We get hundreds of those a year. And then unfortunately lately, the past few years, the third category we're working on is wire theft. It comes out of that same budget, and that would be wire theft repair. So all three of those group together to what we call streetlight maintenance over the course of the year.
Great. Thank you so much. You always make it really easy to understand these complicated public works things, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And kind of just help my understanding and like the history of this conversation for Dinkytown lighting, because I was a student there. I've worked in City Hall. I've served as a policy aide for the Third Ward, and I've seen time and time again students come and community come to advocate for additional lighting, and that petition process that requires property owners oftentimes hear landlords who might not be living there to sign off, and that's always been a barrier. Is this adding this set of lights and then funding it in the future to kind of get around that and address the lighting concerns that have been there for a while?
Yeah, Chair Cashman, Councilmember Charlie, there's a bit of history here, and some of it may even predate my direct involvement. So I'm going to talk generally, but please ask me for specific questions. We have our streetlight policy for the city. The pedestrian streetlight corridors are within that policy. There are mechanisms where neighborhoods can reach to the city via petition through council offices and so forth, and request that an area be considered. Typically over the years when we've had those, they've been tied to a project or a specific endeavor. We had one, I guess it's several years ago now, where the ballpark authority by Target Field provided funding, put forward a petition or a request for a project, provided the funding, and because of the high numbers of pedestrians in the North Loop going to and from the ballpark, we were able to recommend that one being added to the map. So there's a number of ways, I guess, I want to say that things come to us. Specifically with this one, as you allude to, there's been conversations with the university community, I think, for several years. And there's kind of been a handful of, I'd say, requests/reaches to us in the last year or so. As I think there's a question the director referred to, we did get an outreach from the university community suggesting that they would have some funding available or could make funding available. We didn't hear much more about that. And then there was a number of conversations in terms of how would we go about addressing a project like this. And then it kind of got, I would say, incorporated within the budget process, and that's how it came to specifically, specifically the amendment in the budget process was, had two parts to it. One was to assess if this would qualify. The second was the funding element.
Mm-hmm. And so essentially, if it all came together, this would be a part of lighting this area without that petition process.
Chair Cashman, Councilmember Chowdhury, there's not been a petition process, correct?
Okay, great. That's all my questions for you. Really helped my understanding. I'll just kind of leave with these comments. I think it's really important that we don't pit like wire theft that's going around in our city. Director Sexton and Alan know very well how much advocacy my office has done to address the wire theft, specifically in areas where there's a lot of pedestrians and a lot of cars. I think it's really important that we don't pit like the issue of wire theft with the issue here with Dinkytown lighting, right? And I don't think we should talk about it in terms of jumping the line, because I've been a student at the University of Minnesota. I remember my freshman year of college, like this was something that student local government was taking on. And by the time I graduated and became a policy aide to the 3rd Ward, a new set of student government members were advocating to us for this same thing over and over again. And then another council came, the advocacy continued, and then another council came. And there's actually a joke among the local government arm at the University of Minnesota that this is the issue that everyone gets to pass on to the next crop of students to advocate to City Hall on. And at its core, the reason why community members are advocating for this area, the Marcy Homes area, which is off-campus housing, is because of safety. This is an area where a lot of young women in particular have experienced sexual assault. And that's been an issue on university campuses. And that's been something that I've been experienced. I used to live over in the Marcy Homes neighborhood. I have been followed in this area, and I have other countless friends and students currently that are facing this issue, and the one thing that would make them feel safer is lighting. So it's deeper than just jumping the line. We shouldn't be pitting against copper wire theft. This is about safety for students, and I can tell you there are alumni, there's members of the Aurora Center, the Women's Center, that would tell you the exact same thing on why this lighting is important. It's a lot deeper, and I think we should consider that as we're prioritizing a lot of different things in our budget conversations, especially safety and safety for students in this community.
Thank you so much. Next, I'll recognize Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Chair Cashman. I'm going to be voting in favor of this item. And just as background, I used to work for Representative Noor at the state capitol, who represents a big student population. And one of the things of when I used to work at the Capitol, what I heard from students was how unsafe they felt around the Dinkytown area, around the University of Minnesota, and how they wanted more lighting. So this has been projects that have been happening for many, many years. And this project, and being put on this list for potential projects in the future, is meant to address the safety challenges that many of our students in the city of Minneapolis are dealing with. So again, I'll also reiterate, this is not about jumping the line. This is about providing an opportunity for our students to feel safe in the city of Minneapolis, which needs to be a big priority of ours. Now, I do have a few questions, Director Sexton. I read your memo that you sent a couple of days ago. Is there a reason that there wasn't, there wasn't any statements about funding issues in that you talked about in the email that you sent to us? So I kind of want to understand where this funding issue is coming from, because I read the email and I didn't see any opportunities to talk about funding issues there.
Director.
Yeah, Chair Cashman, Councilmember Chavez. I'd welcome Alan Kluckman to talk more specifics, but in general, it's our understanding that the budgets have been established for this year and next, and so I'm not sure that we really saw the value of bringing up funding issues at this point.
Okay, well, I respect that, but that issue wasn't brought up in the memo that we got. I think that would have been very helpful. And I also had another question. There was a memo that the city administration sent that I'm reading about this budget amendment that is pertaining to this, and it said that Public Works can perform that $500,000 of additional lighting work with existing staff and resources this year. So can you explain why that was mentioned in a memo? Now we're getting different information.
Mr. Klugman.
Chair Cashman, Councilmember Chavez. I might be responsible for that, so allow me to explain. We've talked a lot today about our maintenance budget, which is approximately $2 million, about $1.95 million. We also have a $3 million capital program budget for new streetlight installations, separate budgets. So about $5 million total is the amount of electrical work we do in a year. We have the same large crew of electricians who do that work. We sort of move our people among the various projects and programs as the year progresses. And what we meant by that text was that with our current personnel levels, trucks, equipment, wire, material, and so forth, we could accommodate $500,000 worth of work. It's about a 10% change in our yearly electrical workload. And what we meant to say, and I think I'm responsible for that, probably didn't say it clearly enough, was that, that's the sort of way we can flex our staff by, working a few more hours. We bring in seasonal electricians. How many do we bring in, et cetera? So what we wanted to express was that we could, from a capacity and project delivery point of view, we could execute that level of work. I think we were not clear on the funding part.
Okay, thank you. When I first read that, when I voted on the budget amendment, I understood that language should mean something different, so I appreciate that clarification and acknowledgement. The last thing I will say is, and this is maybe for you, Director Sexton, for an answer. So let's just say this $500,000 goes to improving lighting in an area that desperately needs it to keep students safe in our city. Now, are you guaranteeing that if we were to fill that hole of $500,000, that every lighting issue is going to be solved in the entire city of Minneapolis?
Director.
Chair and council member, I can guarantee that every lighting issue would not be solved by that $500,000.
Thank you. Noted.
Next, I'll recognize Councilmember. Are you finished, Councilmember Chavez? Councilmember Vita.
Thank you, Chair Cashman. Just a couple things. One, I'm glad to see that my colleagues care about university students because some of them don't care about charter school students or private school students. There was a decision made here last week to take from charter school students because they went to charter schools. So thank you for caring about university students, colleagues. The reason why I use the language pitting against one another is because I represent a highly underserved community that's waited in line for decades for lighting. I myself came to this council with the idea of putting more money into lighting because it was a big issue in North Minneapolis. And a lot of our lighting situations haven't been solved yet because we are still waiting on our turn. So that's why I'm saying jump in the line. When I came here, I asked for way more than what I received for lighting because there were other parts of the city who had zero lighting. It was literally like dark in certain communities, and I understood that they needed lighting. The second question I asked was about a partnership with the youth for them to pay for lighting because those conversations were had. I don't know if I made that clear or not. What I'm asking here is for some solutions that maybe include financial help from other entities to get the lighting for the youth. Not necessarily, we don't want, it's always this I want or I don't want thing, this observation of if you're saying I don't support this, you don't care about students. No, I care about students, but I also care about the residents of Ward 4 and people around this city who have lost lighting to copper wire theft, unforeseen theft, something we have zero control over, something we had no idea was going to happen on our parkways and bikeways that is not safe for anyone. This is not just about not liking certain parts of the city or it's not my ward. It's about really making decisions in the reality of what's happened in this city. No one saw copper wire theft being a thing, and it is. It's much bigger than I ever imagined. Like, there are people who can't use parkways after a certain time of day because the lighting doesn't work, and we need money to fix that. So I'm asking us to just make decisions in the reality. There is lighting in this area. This is not a blackout area where there is no lighting. Yes, will this enhance and help the area? Absolutely, and I think it should. But I do not think, and I'm going to keep keep on using the language of jumping the line. No, no one gets to jump the line. I've been waiting in Ward 4. We've been waiting on the north side for decades for specific lighting, and so has other people on this dais, in their neighborhoods, in their communities, waiting until their turn to get it. And this is on here. This is fine that, you know, folks are going to put this on the map. But, like, I've seen this play out on this council. As soon as something gets added to the list, then it becomes the priority over everybody else's. And if you got the votes to make it a priority, you make it a priority. I'm not okay with that. And it is pitting against each other if we're not going through the existing list we have now and making sure that gets done, and then somebody jumps the line and get their lighting done.
All right, thank you for your comments. Next, I'll recognize Councilmember Chowdhury.
Yeah, thank you. I hope we can figure out how to work this out because, I mean, if it's a priority for lighting for all of us in different parts of our community, I think that's something we can prioritize in our city budget and have conversations. And I hope the University of Minnesota is listening. If there's any way to offset some of the costs for lighting for Dinkytown, please, by all means, support the city of Minneapolis to make it happen. For me, it felt important to talk about like the human aspect of it because I think it was just missing from this initial conversation. And I just want to highlight the reason why it's been barrier for lighting in this area is because of this petition process that required student community members to try to get property owners on board. I think it was like about a 2/3 majority. And if those property owners aren't there or live in another state and they can't sign off, and you're asking students and people to volunteer their time, working people to volunteer their time, you're just not going to get it, right? So this has been a long-standing issue, as it has been in other parts of the city. And I also want to take a moment to highlight the good work of Public Works in the city of Minneapolis in advocating at the state legislature to require anyone who sells copper to a scrap metal seller to have a license as a deterrent for copper wire theft, right? It's not going to fix everything, but that was a huge win that this department was able to get that went into effect in January 1. And has been a strong deterrent. And I encourage community members to share that information out because I think it's good for people to know. And if there are scrap metal sellers that are accepting copper wire without a license, that could potentially impact their business license. So appreciate this conversation.
Okay, well, thank you for the broad discussion on this. I just want to reiterate my commitment to working with any council members, including Councilmember Palmisano and Vice Chair Koski here on budgeting to fill the gap because it's important to all of us in all areas of the city to make sure streetlight repairs are being done to the extent possible. There's residents here from Kenwood, and this is one of those neighborhoods that's not in the equity priority area, and so it has been neglected, but it is on the Parkway, and this is an area that the entire city comes to because it's a regional draw. So we do need to figure this out, and we're all on the same team here. So Team Minneapolis, so we'll figure this out, but I just wanted to clarify here that this item is to amend the street lighting plan map. And so it's not necessarily a budget item that's before us today. And I will move approval of the streetlight planning map reclassification. And I'll just take a voice vote here. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? One abstention, and that motion carries. So we have made it through the consent agenda here, and next we'll go to our public hearing. So our public hearing is adopting assessments for the Kenwood Neighborhood Concrete Pavement Rehabilitation Project. I would like to remind the folks who are here for the public hearing that by speaking here today, you reserve your right to appeal. After the public hearing, committee members will have a general discussion about this item, and if you do have specific questions about your assessment, you're also more than welcome to meet with the staff who will be presenting here today. So here to kick off the public hearing is Chris Dedenne from Public Works.
Good afternoon, Chair Cashman, members of the committee. My name is Chris Dedenne. I am a professional engineer with the Transportation Engineering and Design Division of Public Works. Today, I am here presenting on a public hearing for the Kenwood Neighborhood Concrete Rehabilitation Project, City Project Number 1077R. The proposed project consists of rehabilitation of 1.2 miles of residential streets in the Kenwood neighborhood. Elements to be included as part of this project include upgrading pedestrian ramps to meet ADA compliance, upgrading bus stops, replacement of select pavement panels, select curb and gutter, and diamond grinding and sealing of the entire pavement. On April 17th, City Council designated the improvements proposed to the neighborhood rehabilitation project. The streets to be rehabilitated were constructed in 1970 and have a pavement condition score, PCI, ranging between 46 and 72. Total anticipated project cost is $2.4 million. The total street reconstruction assessment is $216,316. This assessment is based on the 2025 Uniform Assessment Rates and Area Influence Method. The rates are 75 cents per square foot for non-residential properties and 25 cents per square foot for residential properties. These assessments are payable over a 10-year period. Public Works has conducted numerous outreach activities throughout the planning and design of this project. A pre-assessment meeting to answer any questions related to the assessment was held on May 15th. 145 invitations were mailed to residents, and 0 attendees came to this meeting. Assessment information has been provided to the affected property owners and the notices mailed to them as how persons may prepay the special assessments in full without interest if they so choose. City Council has passed resolutions whereby a deferment of special assessments may be obtained by showing hardships for any homestead property owned by a person 65 years of age or older, retired by virtue of permanent and total disability, or military personnel ordered to serve in active military service. Today, Public Works is asking City Council to pass resolutions ordering the work to proceed, adopting special assessments, and authorizing the sale of assessment bonds for this project. This concludes my presentation, and I will stand for questions.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation, Mr. Dedeen. I will now proceed to open the public hearing. We don't have anyone signed up, so is there anyone here who would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And just one question, couple of questions for you, Mr. Dedeen, is the ability to submit a letter to dispute the assessment. What's the deadline on the submission of that letter?
Thank you, Chair Cashman. I'm Jeff Handeland. I'm a principal professional engineer in the Transportation Engineering Design Division of Public Works. In order to reserve the right to appeal to district court, property owners need to submit a writing an objection or speak here today by the time of this public hearing now.
Okay, so it would have had to be by today.
That's correct. And I'd like to just mention, just make sure the record is straight, as Mr. Dean just had one small misspeak, and he said the payment period was 10 years. This is a resurfacing rate special assessment with a repayment period of 5 years.
Okay, thank you for correcting that. I just want to, thank you, Mr. Dedeen, for your engagement with the community on this over the last few months and doing a lot to provide maximum amount of information to the residents of the neighborhood. And I just, think it's really important to mention that although public assessments like this are burdensome for the residents on top of the property taxes that they already pay, that the assessment is only covering 9% of the project, and Public Works has done a good job to proactively apply for grants and other sources to fund these repairs. A total of $216,000 is being funded through assessment of the $2.4 million project. So thank you for that and doing your best to really offset the assessment that is being levied on residents. And we on this committee are frequently discussing ways in which we do our assessments and how to make that more equitable. But I think, that you in Public Works and my office have done our due diligence to explain this to the residents and give them the opportunity to appeal it as well. So is there any other questions or discussion from committee members here today? All right, seeing none, I will move this item for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Great, that item carries. So finally, we will hear presentations from the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committees. So here to kick off that presentation is Alex Schieferdecker, Pedestrian and Bicycle Coordinator with Public Works.
There we go. Thank you, Chair Cashman and council members. My name is Alex Schieferdecker, and I am the Pedestrian and Bicycle Coordinator with Public Works. It's a pleasure to appear before you today to introduce the 2024 annual report from the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committees. You have in your file today a report document which summarizes the activities of both committees in 2024, and additionally, it is a tradition for the chairs of these committees to present directly to the council about the themes that arose out of the committee's past year of work. So with us here today are Alyssa Schuffman, Chair of the BAC, and Andrea Reel, Chair of the PAC. And also here in the room are many members of these committees. Maybe they could raise their hand if they'd like to, just identify themselves. Great. Before I pass the microphone to the chairs, I want to note two things to this committee. First, both of these committees will be restructured and new terms for the members will start on July 1st. However, in practice, their scope of work is not changing. And I want to recognize Andrew Dagerstrom in our department for his work shepherding the committees through this process and staffing both of these committees for a long period this year. So, second, I want to briefly honor all the members of these committees who were serving at the end of this term, and I believe we have all their names, and thank them for their service. And I want to specifically highlight the service of Janice Gepner, who will conclude her 14 and a half years of service at the end of this term. And from here, I want to call up Alyssa Schuffman to give her presentation.
All right, welcome, Ms. Schuffman.
Thank you, Committee Chair Cashman, council members. My name is Alyssa Schuffman. I use she and they pronouns. I am the Ward 9 representative and the Bicycle Advisory Committee chair. And I am very excited to join you today to talk a little bit about our work. I joined the Bicycle Advisory Committee almost a decade ago for a lot of reasons. I care about climate action, racial justice, public health, disability justice, many values. But more than anything, I joined this committee because I love riding my bike. It is a joyful activity. That joy has been hard-won. A decade ago, I was hit by the driver of an SUV while bicycling, and a thing I didn't know at the time was that it was predictable, even inevitable, because of the way our streets are built. Crashes are just the most visible externalization of the cost of putting cars and driving above everything else, but it is also in the air we breathe, the water we drink, the disconnection we feel, the hours we waste. My experience is one of many experiences like it and many unlike it. Stories of displacement, of loneliness, of asthma and chronic pain, of financial struggle forced upon people and families who have no choice but to drive. I'm here because we still need to change our transportation system. I've learned a lot during my service on this committee over the last almost decade, and I'd like to share a little bit of what I've experienced over that decade with you today. Talk a little bit about what is expected of us as committee members, how we've evolved over the last almost 10 years, and a little bit about what's next. I, like many BAC members and people in our community who would like better walking, biking, and transit systems, just want them to be better. I didn't come to this work as a planner with a technical background. I didn't think of myself as an advocate. I just wanted my neighborhood to be easier and more enjoyable to get around, and that's an experience that many committee members share. What is it like to join the BAC? We certainly boast members from a variety of backgrounds, and everyone's experience is different, but here's a couple things that I've seen over the last decade. One of the most important things that we on the BAC offer is functional experience about how infrastructure actually translates to people's daily needs. And when I joined the committee, it became very clear very quickly, and I've heard this from other committee members as well, that to get project staff and consultants to really listen to those experiences, they have to be technically translated. We can't say things like, please narrow this car lane to make a little more room for bikes, right? We have to say, this project design is 12 feet road, 2-foot gutter pan. We would like it to be a 10-foot road with a 2-foot gutter pan as per the street design guide, section 3.6b. Please reallocate that 2 feet to the minimum 2-foot buffer for the bike lane in order to put a protected bike lane on this bikeway, right? That's the kind of technical expertise, really like put a lot of pressure on committee members, right, to be policy experts, to bring that high level of technical acumen when many of us, again, come to the committee just wanting our neighborhoods to be better places to get around. In recent years, those technical and policy expertise asks of the public have increased. We've seen the city's conflict policy cause some waning interest from people who bring some of those technical backgrounds. And then with government restructuring, we've lost our council seat on the committee, having not a direct liaison to the council anymore. And we're also seeing that shifting the role of department seats, not in a few months, in a few short weeks, starting in July, right? So those things all together, again, kind of put bigger asks on members of the public who are joining this committee. We are expected to be policy experts, to bring that technical acumen, to be organizers, right, to engage with community members and council members outside of meetings. What you would think of on paper as a 4-hour per month volunteer commitment can become 6, 8, 10, right, for folks who really want to move forward a particular project or policy. Over time, the BAC has also grown and evolved, right? So beyond some of those like technical pieces that we have invested in as a committee, the advocacy community as a whole has a clearer vision that is more grounded in our values: racial justice, accessibility, climate action. When I started on the BAC, I think the advocacy community as a whole was kind of evolving their norms around who are we building bike infrastructure for and why, right? Where we're fighting a public narrative that biking is for people who wear Lycra and race around on the weekends, and that's really not reflective of reality. Today's BAC is intergenerational. We have casual riders and people who race. We have people who bike solo and people who bike with their kids or their grandkids. We have trail riders and street commuters, people with chronic injuries or health conditions that limit their ability to bicycle year-round. We represent a wide swath of user experience. We have also seen over the last decade improvements in record keeping that have made things more accessible. A decade ago, the city didn't have LIMS for the Bicycle Advisory Committee, and anything you wanted to find about a past project was just dig in your email and hope for the best, or ask Janice, our 14-year serving member who has been our secretary for a really long time. She's got a paper file about this thick with all of the past information. So LIMS is a huge access and transparency improvement that really takes information out of the realm of individual memory and into institutional knowledge for our committee. And I pair those two things together because I want to say, as a BAC, we know we are asking more of you than we did when I joined this committee 10 years ago. And that's in part because of the successes we've had, but also because our vision as a committee is clear and the need is much clearer, and the information about what we're building on, what we've already accomplished, is more readily available. Speaking of successes, over the last decade, we have spent a lot of time on policy and planning. We have created and improved some incredible policy, and the suite of policies we have as a city is a really powerful tool. The public engagement the city has done with the public at large and the BAC over the last decade has helped us translate our values into policy and continue to serve well in our role bridging those ward priorities and experiences with the city's policymaking apparatus. We have engaged with most of the policies and plans listed on this slide. One that I really want to call out as something that I was part of and the committee was really part of was influencing the Vision Zero action plan. We had a lot of conversations for over many years, 2017 through 2020, about racial equity and traffic enforcement. And many of the things that we raised as concerns and potential issues really helped shape and improve the Minneapolis traffic camera safety pilot, now in its final planning stages, as you all know. Many of the policies on this slide did not exist before or are building off of prior efforts that hadn't been codified as deeply. And the amount of time and effort we've put into our plans is reflected in how much of a better place we're in policy-wise than when I applied to the BAC 10 years ago. And yet, We've still got a long way to go, unsurprising, since many of these policies were a first or second pass at something. Our Complete Streets policy is hardly nation-leading, with a score of 63 out of a possible 100, ranked by the National Complete Streets Partnership, in a time when multiple other cities and jurisdictions updating their policies scored between 85 and 100. It is possible to score 100 on this ranking. So we have also huge implementation challenges in front of us that to date we haven't really reckoned with, right? 2 years ago, I stood in front of this committee and said we need a public fiscal analysis that tells us what the Transportation Action Plan would cost to implement, a public funding plan that identifies sources of funding, and a staffing plan that gives us the human resources to actually do the work we've committed to doing in the Transportation Action Plan. And to my knowledge, we haven't done any of those things. So we still have a lot of work ahead of us. The next decade will be critical in transforming our transportation systems so that they work for all the people of Minneapolis. What is the role of the BAC in that? What does the city need to do to take our plans and turn them from vision into reality? These policy asks from 2021 would be a substantial start. But the bigger picture that I really want to leave you all with is that the vision of Minneapolis as a city where it is better, it's faster, it's safer, it's more enjoyable, it's more convenient to walk, bike, and take transit than it is to drive, right? That's really what we're trying to do here. Because the cost of making it easy to drive is our health, is our collective well-being, our connections, our environment. Over the last decade, I've heard over and over again in project after project, we can't do that, and here's why. What I've learned is that while occasionally there is a substantive reason for that objection, mostly we lack imagination and a willingness to do hard things. We can't do that is too often code for some neighbors have complained about parking impacts despite the parking study showing that we have plenty. Or you're asking us to slow down cars and we won't do that. Or the council member in this ward doesn't like bikes or buses and so we will ignore our city policy in favor of their preference. Our role on the BAC in the next decade is to continue to keep an eye on our North Star values and always be pointing out when we could and should be making different choices, when we actually can do that. The moment that we're in demands more than the cognitive dissonance that so many of our past transportation decisions have demonstrated. It is no coincidence that walking, biking, and transit are under attack directly alongside democracy, alongside civil liberties and the environment. Mobility that connects us and protects our collective well-being is inseparable from racial justice, from democracy, from accessibility, from public health, from many of the values I know you on this committee share. Now is a moment where we need to continue to stand up for a vision of mobility that doesn't force people to own cars to live fulfilling lives. The leaders in this room have substantial power to build a Minneapolis where it is better to bike than it is to drive, through our budgeting, through our capital priorities, and through developing operational policies that are tied directly to our goals. It's not just a vision, but it's a moral imperative. Transportation is a tangible tool we have to meet the moment we're in and stand up for a more just, joyful, and connected Minneapolis. Thank you. I believe next up is Andrea.
All right. Thank you so much for your introduction and presentation, and welcome, Andrea, to continue the conversation about the Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Good afternoon, Chair Cashman and Council. I am Andrea Reel. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a resident of Ward 8. And I arrived here today using a combination of a Metro Transit bus, my bike, and my feet. And I say that because I want to start off the conversation on the Pedestrian Advisory Committee's report to you today with a reminder that people experience the city of Minneapolis not as a distinct network of streets and buildings and parks, but as systems that work together to get them to the places they want to go and to live the lives that they want to live. All of this together, when we really think about that as a system, allows us to create the vibrant city that we all want and deserve. So I personally advocate for pedestrians because of climate reasons, because of equity reasons, but also because everyone is a pedestrian. When you look at the definition of a pedestrian, it is anyone who walks or rolls using wheelchair, stroller, or other assistive mobility device. That means that for some part of everyone's day, you're a pedestrian, whether it's walking from a parking garage into your office or going to the bus stop as I did this morning. For us, that means that as we think about the pedestrian experience across the city, that impacts every single resident here. But pedestrians give us the vibrant city that I think we all want. They do that through creating opportunities for social cohesion, for accidental encounters on the street, reduced reliance on cars and climate impacts, They're sort of benefiting public health and really contributing to economic vitality of the city through being able to stop and see a cute little shop that you just happen to pass by. These are all really important elements of being a pedestrian. But pedestrians need some support in making sure that they can provide all of this vibrancy to the city. And it turns out a lot of the things that they need are the same things that drivers need. They need spaces that are designed for their experiences. So on this slide, the top image is one of a street reconstruction project that I think the Pedestrian Advisory Committee would say is pretty good. There's narrow travel lanes, there's some traffic calming, it's close by a school, so it's got the flashing lights. Really, overall, pretty good. With the sidewalk here, our standard sidewalks in the city of Minneapolis are 6 feet. This is an example of that, which means that if you are walking with someone in a wheelchair, you may be walking in grass or behind them instead of being able to walk next to them. This picture on the bottom is from Brazil, actually. This is a place that's been designed for pedestrians to experience their city. We have some of those here in Minneapolis, but too often we really think about how do we fit pedestrians into a car experience. Pedestrians also need some wayfinding to tell them where to go. These two pictures are at 35th and Blaisdell. It's coming from opposite directions. For those who aren't familiar, it's a one-way street. So if you're a pedestrian walking against traffic, you don't get to see what color the light is. You don't get to see what street you're crossing. You don't get to see anything because all of that signage has been designed for people who are traveling in cars. And so if you want to know, like, am I 34th or am I 35th? You have to kind of walk into the intersection and look behind you to find out. We often don't think about those types of impacts for people outside of cars, but it gives you a lot of information about where you are when we think about pedestrians first. Pedestrians also need access to the destinations that they want to go to. They need to be able to access their doctor's appointments, their restaurants, the different types of places that they want to go. So these two images here are the same block. It's 7th Street, but one is on Nicollet Mall, where we have a lot of really great restaurants and shopping available. The other is at 3rd, where we're sort of hoping to move buses to, and you'll see there's a parking garage and a couple of corporate buildings. So not exactly open to the public in the way that, that the mall is. And last, pedestrians need parking spots, benches, bathrooms, the ability to sort of exist as humans in the world. We often think about how do we designate enough parking or enough places for people to put their cars. We don't often spend enough time thinking about where people will put their bodies when they are transiting. And so benches, right now we rely on property owners to put benches on adjacent areas. But really that is a definite human need that people need to be able to access the city and contribute to all of that vibrancy I mentioned. So what are our gaps and how can the leaders in this room help? Similar to Alyssa, I've sort of listened for themes over the last year. And for me, it comes down to kind of 3 key areas. The first is just prioritizing pedestrians. In our transportation action plan, pedestrians are supposed to be the first people that we prioritize, but for many reasons, people who can't, like these young people, drive a car or don't want to for whatever reason, are often sort of given whatever space is left in our public areas. And I would love to see us think, how do we really build a dynamic pedestrian-first environment? The second is because of cooperation. This picture is a picture of a sidewalk that MnDOT has closed due to an encampment. The detour here takes someone probably 15 minutes out of their way if they wanted to walk on sidewalk the whole way. And so what people do is what this gentleman in the picture has done. They walk in the street, which is not safe. It was not a safe experience with that encampment there either. But we really need to make sure that as we are thinking about our transportation systems interacting with the city systems, that the built environment is not forcing people to make a series of unsafe choices. And the last piece is around cost. I know it's always the question, right? This picture here is of the 10th Avenue Bridge, which has been closed to cars for a long time because it's falling apart. The city has found funds to replace that, but those funds require us to reopen this street to cars. It's over the Greenway. It's right by the Midtown Global Market. It would be a great place to build a pedestrian plaza. But the funding source, the choice that we made to constrain ourselves based on that funding source will require it to be back open to cars instead of taking this opportunity to build a vibrant pedestrian space. So you, as the power of the purse holders, these are the types of decisions that I believe you can influence at the policy level. That's all I have for you today. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the presentation. I will wait to see if there are any other council members who wanted to ask questions, but I did just have a question for you, Ms. Reel, about pedestrian infrastructure. I feel like it's something that we don't talk about enough, and it's often, I think, because the improvements that we make might be under the threshold of even the money, dollar sign threshold of coming through council for approval. So for example, something like a pedestrian flasher is very, very common and beloved in community and often requested. And I'm just wondering if you have discussed this as a committee about how we could increase the amount of pedestrian flashers in our community or other mechanisms to help people just cross the street where there are no crosswalks or opportunities.
That's a great question, Councilmember Castman. We talk about it all the time, actually. And we think a lot about what are the signals or ways that people need to get, especially across busy streets, quickly. I think the Lindale Avenue South, the 25th and 27th, where those flashers were put in mid-block, is just like a great model of good for the city, for people to be able to get across where they actually want to cross, right? There's destinations on both sides of that street. And so providing those in many places, I think, is like a great thing. We often ask for them in the resolutions that we provide about different projects, but they are expensive. They're not cheap, and there's sometimes like impacts to traffic flow that we hear about as a barrier as well. So we definitely think that those and marking all of the legs of crosswalks are really important pedestrian safety infrastructure, and we would love to see more of it.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be great for us to, as we're doing street projects, like I'll just give, First Avenue North as an example. It's coming up. It's a project that is going to be huge and is going to greatly expand the sidewalk width, which is a goal of ours in many of our street reconstruction projects, for us to think about the amenities like benches that should be like built into the project as well. I think another vehicle, for lack of a better term here, for us to talk about these improvements would also be through special service districts. They have large budgets to do, trash collection, extra street sweeps, snow removal, these kinds of things. But I'm not aware of, special service districts that are making investments in benches. So I'm just saying this as some ideas for us to consider in collaboration of how to make sure that we are investing in seating in all areas of the public realm and where we can find funding for that. Any other questions or discussion from committee members? All right, seeing none. Yes, sorry. Councilor Chavez.
Thank you, Chair Cashman. Alex, Alyssa, Andrea, thanks so much for the presentation and the update. And I can rewatch the YouTube video, but Alyssa, you mentioned 3 things that you brought forward to the City Council. Can you just repeat that for the public again?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Committee Chair Cashman, Councilmember Chavez. The 3 things that were kind of priorities is thinking about a public fiscal analysis that tells us what the transportation action plan would cost to implement, a public funding plan that identifies sources of funding to actually do that, and then a staffing plan that maps our human resources to the budget and the fiscal. Is that the thing
Yes.
you're referring to? Okay.
Thanks so much. And I'll just, on the side, reach out to you, Chair Cashman, about this particular topic, and Director Tim Sexton just about thoughts about public works from this. So thanks so much.
Great. All right. Councilmember Chowdhury.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to the Pedestrian Advisory Committee and the Bicycle Advisory Committee. I've appreciated your presentation last year and now this year, and have appreciated the moments that I've gotten to engage with you all in different capacities, whether it's running into you in community or chatting over email. And I personally, as a member of this committee, would love to get an opportunity to just connect deeper, especially as we move into the budget process, but also City Council is in session 12 months out of the year. So would love to discuss opportunities that we have together the rest of this year and then looking forward into the future.
All right, thanks. Seeing no one else in queue, I'll direct the clerk to file those reports. And with that, we've concluded all business today. So without objection, we stand adjourned.